Next, we are going to move towards creating our own function. So as we mentioned before, we need to mention this keyword, which is the def keyword. Then we write the name of the function. Then we use the parenthesis and also the parameters which we are going to take inside the function. So over here in this function, which is the Fibonacci function, what my basic idea is, I want to calculate all those Fibonacci numbers up to n. So for example, let us consider in this example only. So when I give the parameter as 100, what I want to do is calculate all Fibonacci numbers starting from the very first number, that is 0, up to 100. Since 100 is not a Fibonacci number, so the number before 100, which is a Fibonacci number, is 89. So over until this point, I want to calculate all the Fibonacci numbers. So this is the basic idea of this function, that is what I want to do. So I know that I have to use the def keyword. I know the name of the function, which is kind of obvious. And I know that I want to take in only one parameter, that is the maximum value which I want to have. So I mentioned the name of that parameter as n. This name could be anything as per your choice. Next, what we have is this thing. It is also called the docstring. The main aim of the docstring is, for example, if you are distributing your code to a particular community, or if your code is open source, or for example, if you're working in a team and you want others to understand your code. So there might exist some function whose functionality might not be quite obvious to every other people. So what you do is you mention this docstring inside the function. We also have this concept of docstring in classes, which we'll see tomorrow. So what this basically does, it is it will have no impact on the functionality of this function. All it will do is it is a documentation string which will indicate what your function is going to do. And so this is what I'm doing. This function finds the Fibonacci series up to n. So this is just a description of what a function is going to do. Over here, I've written the logic of the Fibonacci, how to find the Fibonacci number. So we all know that the first Fibonacci number is 0. So I've written A as 0. And the second Fibonacci number is 1. So I've written B as 1. So what happens in Fibonacci number, we all know it starts from 0, then it is 1. Then the next number is going to be the sum of previous two numbers, so 0 plus 1. Then the next number is going to be again 1 plus 1 and so on. So this goes like that. So what I do is until and unless A is less than n, we cycle through this loop. We have already seen what while loops are. So what I do is I print the value of A and then I assign A as B because I want the A value to keep on taking the next value so that when we sum it, we get our respective output. For example, over here I have 0 and then I have 1. What I'll do in the next iteration is I will be taking A as 1 and B will be 0 plus 1. So the next number is going to be 1. So until now, I have the sequence 0, 1, 1. I'll show you this comment. So for the next iteration, we will have 1, comma 1. So the next value which we are going to have is A will be equal to 1 again. So so this should be 1, and then B should take the value that is the sum of 1 plus 1. So it will be 2. Similarly, in the next step, we'll have A equal to 2 and B will be equal to 1 plus 2, that will be 3. And this goes on until we reach our limit, that is 100. So this is what this loop is going to do. A will take the next value, that is B, and B is going to take the value that is going to be the sum of A plus B. So this was the logic of Fibonacci. We have compiled it, or rather we have grouped it in this particular function, that is the Fibonacci function, and then we can make use of Fibonacci function anywhere in our code, any times we want. So over here, what I do is call this Fibonacci function, and the maximum value which I have passed as a parameter is going to be 100. So this will print all values starting from 0 and this goes until 89 because the next number is obviously going to be greater than 100. So this while loop, the condition inside this while loop will be false. So we won't get that as the output. Now I want to print the doc string which I mentioned over here. So we basically say Fibonacci dot double underscore doc double underscore, and this will print the doc string. Next, we'll move on to the default argument value. So over here, like we have seen, if the value of n is given to it as 100, then it's fine. What if we haven't given any value, we haven't passed any parameter over here. So we are stuck. Our program might crash over there if that value is too important. For example, over here, the value is actually important because we want to perform some arithmetic operation. So if we don't mention 100 over here, we will get some problem. So as you can see, this has given us red squiggly lines over here. So this is an error. So to cater to this, what we do is we mention some default values to these parameters. So what I do is, for example, if the value to this particular parameter, so this is another function, this is the increase score function. What it does is I give it a score and it increases that score by 1. What if the score is not given? It will take the default value as 0. So this is how we mention the default value. So when I say score equal to 0, when the value is not passed, it will take the value 0. And if the value is passed, it will take the value which is passed. As simple as that. So over here in the first call, that is in this statement, I have said increase score and the value which is passed is 10. So it will perform what is there in the function body, score plus equal to 1. So 10 plus 1 is going to be 11. So S1 will take this value which is returned. So this is another thing which you want to note in functions. We can return some values also. So that returned value needs to be stored somewhere. So we make use of this S1 variable which stores this returned value. Returned value can be anything. It can be a string, it can be a number, it can be a list or anything which you want to store. So this S1, this takes the score value, which is incremented from 10 to 11. So S1 will hold the value 11. So when I say print S1, it actually prints out 11. Second, we have this S2, which takes up this value. Over here, we haven't really passed any sort of parameter to this function. So score will take up the default value, that is 0. And when I say score plus equal to 1, 0 plus 1 is 1. So S2 will store the value 1, which is also returned over here. So when I say print S2, it will print this value 1. Another thing which we want to make a note of is that the default value is evaluated only once. So actually you won't see the difference when we are using these values, for example, integers and stuff, but we will definitely notice what the change is happening if we make use of some mutable objects like list, dictionaries, and so on. So this is one such program to demonstrate what I actually want to say. So over here, what I do is this is my function and I take two parameters, one of which is a simple variable x, another is a list, and this is its default value. So the default value is an empty string. What I want to do is li.append x. We have seen what append is in the previous section. So what it will do is it will add this value x towards the array which have the values in the list 1, 2, and 3. So when I append x, say x is 4, so the list will become 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this will do the job of appending those values. Then I print the ID of li. What ID does is it prints the address, the virtual address where the list will be stored, and then I return the same list. Now I call these functions, but each time around I don't pass the second parameter, that is this list. So what we would expect is it will take an entirely new list each time we call because we are not specifying the second parameter. So we would assume that it will take the default value always. What what really happens is when we call this function for the first time and give the value of x as 1 and leave the second parameter blank, it will initialize a new list. The default value is evaluated only one. That is what I want to say. During our first time, during our first call, this will get initialized to an empty list. So what it will do is it will append this value 1 to this empty list. So what I have in the list is 1. Next time when I print, so when I call function with a parameter 2, this 2 is the value of x. This will append x, that is 2, to the same list which we left in our previous call, that is in this call. So in our previous call, we had 1. So this is the motive why I was trying to print ID over here. So this is the same list which we had in our first call. You can see the addresses in all the three calls is exactly the same. You can see this, it is ending with 2184. So the list is exactly the same. So this is what I want to say. The default value is evaluated only once during the very first call of this function. That in this case, it was function when the parameter x was 1. So what it does is it evaluates the default value only for the first time. So in the first iteration, we have an empty list totally. It will append the value x, which in the first case happens to be 1. Next, we call function with x value as 2. So it appends value 2 to the same list. So we get 1 comma 2. Next, we call function and the parameter is 3. 3 is the value of x. And then I append that particular value of x, that is 3, to the same list which we got from the second call. So that happens to be 1 comma 2. So when I append the value 3, it comes out as 1 comma 2 comma 3. So this is what I wanted you to make a note of, that the default value is evaluated only once. And we feel this particular thing when we have a mutable object like list, dictionaries, etc. Next, we have keyword arguments. So up till now, you have seen if I have two parameters over here, the order over here is important. So for example, let me have another function. For example, now if I have some function. So when I say print A and then when I say so over here, if I have this sort of function, so basically the idea is the order in which I pass the parameters is important. Example, if I pass a string first and then a list later, or if I pass a list first and then a string later, the default arguments won't really have any such impact. So any such order is the same. So if I pass a list over here as the first parameter and then a string over here, for example, anything. So for this function. So yeah, even though I've initialized the default value as a string and over here I've initialized the default value as a list, this won't really have an impact when we pass values. So because when we pass values, it will completely override what the default value is. So even though the default is a string, we can have a list as the value of a. And when the default is a list, we can have the value as a string. So that won't really have an impact. So if I wanted this particular first parameter to be the value of b, and this particular parameter to take the value a to take this value of the second parameter. This is not possible when we just keep on passing the parameters. This won't actually solve the problem. So when you want that the order in which you pass the parameters should not be important, in that case, we make use of keyword arguments. So what keyword arguments does is you have these three values, for example, age, name, and CGPI, which is what this function takes, the student function takes. And you want to change the order. That is, you can pass the parameters in any order you want. So in that case, we make use of keyword arguments. So over here, you can see I have passed the name first, then the CGPI, and then the age. So I have shuffled this order, but the value which it is going to take is going to be the same. So over here, I want the value of this to take the value which is passed first, that is John Doe. So John Doe will move directly to the second parameter name. So when I print this particular statement, the first value which I get is John Doe. So that is what we wanted to achieve, right? The value name, this particular variable name should take the first value, and that is what it does. So over here we have made use of keyword arguments. So what the basic idea is, we mention the name of the parameter over here and then equals to the value which we want to assign to it. So this is sort of the idea that this is the keyword and this is the value which we want to assign to it. So this is how it works. We mention the variable which we want to assign the value and then we mention the value to it. This goes in the function in the same order in which it want to accept. So this might throw these values to the function in any order, but the function will accept it in the order which it wants to. So when I look at this particular point, even though age is the third parameter over here, this will be taken by this first parameter only. So age equals to 18 will be taken by the first parameter. Name equal to John Doe will be taken by the second parameter, and CGPI equal to 9.27 will be taken by the third parameter. So I can quite shuffle up these parameters with the help of keyword arguments. So